Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are strapping in for something really specific, really practical.
Yeah, high ROI stuff today.
Exactly. We're doing a deep dive into how to, well, smash low-stakes poker, specifically live cash games.
We're talking stakes like, what, $12, $13? Maybe up to 510?
Those are the ones, the common games you find everywhere.
This isn't going to be some super complex GTO lecture.
No, definitely not. The mission here is different. We've distilled things down into what the source material calls the ultimate 5-step formula.
It's a shortcut, really, designed purely to exploit the common mistakes you see from recreational players.
Yeah.
The goal is boosting your win rate fast.
It's all about knowledge economy, right? Getting you the quickest path to dominating those tables. And the core idea seems to be less about balance.
And much more about aggressive exploitation, ruthless exploitation even, based on how predictable players can be.
So it all boils down to understanding opponent tendencies.
Absolutely. That's the foundation. Low-stakes players, they're often passive, they call way too much, and crucially, they're often very transparent when they have a big hand.
Okay.
If you can figure out when they're fast playing their monsters versus when they're just kind of floating with weak stuff,
Yeah.
that's a massive edge.
Right.
So these 5 steps, they actually simplify things, turn tricky spots into almost autopilot plays against typical human opponents.
Okay, let's dig into it then, the 5 steps. Starting right at the beginning, pre-flop, step 1 seems foundational.
It really is. Step 1, be the pre-flop aggressor, period. No negotiation on this one.
It's not just about playing strong hands, though, is it? The guide is super strict. It's either open with a raise yourself.
Or if someone's already raised, it's basically 3-bet or fold. No passive calling allowed, with very few exceptions.
Why so strict? I mean, calling feels safer sometimes, especially for newer players. Why avoid it?
2 words. The rake.
Ah, the rake.
It's brutal in low-stakes games. It just eats away at your potential winnings, especially in small pots.
Yeah.
It can easily kill like 30, maybe 50% of your theoretical edge if you're not careful.
So playing lots of small pots passively is just feeding the rake.
Exactly. You have to play fewer pots overall, but make the ones you do play significantly bigger. Aggression does that. Raising, 3-betting. It builds bigger pots right away.
Okay, so if I just call, I'm keeping the pot small, letting others in cheaply, and paying more rake relative to the pot.
But if you 3-bet,
I isolate, build a bigger pot, maybe win it right there, or I go post-flop heads up, usually in position.
precisely, and you're exploiting them too.
Yes.
Low-stakes players, they don't fold the 3-bets nearly often enough,
So they call with weaker hands.
all the time, which is great for you. And even better, they almost never 4-bet bluff. They just don't do it much.
Meaning I can 3-bet pretty aggressively,
Yeah.
even with hands that aren't, pocket aces, not worry too much about getting blown off my hand.
That's the idea. You apply pressure, and they usually just call or fold.
Okay, that makes sense economically and exploitatively. But surely there must be some times when just calling a raise flatting is the right play.
Yes, absolutely. The strategy isn't totally rigid. There are 3 key exceptions where flatting is okay, or even better.
All right, what are they?
First one's simple. You're in the big blind, and the action closes with you. You've already got money in, you're getting good odds. Calling is fine.
Okay, makes sense. Exception 2.
When you're on the button, position is just that powerful post-flop. Being on the button gives you the flexibility to sometimes flat call and see a flop profitably.
Right, position trumps almost everything. And the third exception. This one sounded really interesting in the outline.
Yeah, this one's more tactical. You can flat call, even with a really strong hand like queens or ace-king.
Okay.
If you're facing a raise from a tight player in early position, and there are several weak, splashy players yet to act behind you.
I see. So if I 3-bet my queens there, I might scare off the weaker players I actually want in the pot.
Exactly. You let those weaker players come along by just calling. You build a bigger multi-way pot where they're likely to make huge mistakes post-flop against your strong hand.
So you're kind of slow playing pre-flop to trap the fish.
You could call it that.
Yeah.
You're maximizing the potential for their errors later on. Let the fish cook, as you said earlier.
I like that. Let the fish cook. Okay, that actually leads perfectly into step 2, which is all about post-flop, specifically when we are in position.
Right. Step 2. This one sounds a bit wild at first glance.
It does. The advice is c-bet your entire range when you're heads up and in position. Bet everything.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Like 90% of the time.
Yeah.
It sounds reckless betting whether you hit the flop or completely whiffed.
Yeah.
But against typical low-stakes players, it's described as a money print.
So I raise pre-flop. One player called, I'm on the button. Flop comes down, say, Jack 9 deuce, totally disconnected. I have ace king. I missed completely. You're saying just bet.
Yes, bet. Almost always. We simplify our decisions and we put pressure on them.
But why? Doesn't game theory suggest checking sometimes?
Well, interestingly, even GTO solvers suggest betting very frequently here, maybe 85–90% of the time, even on wet boards. But we're not doing it for balance. We're doing it purely exploitatively.
Okay, so why does it work so well against these opponents?
Because of their predictable tendencies. Again, one, they don't check raise bluff enough. Like almost never. If they check raise you, you can basically put them on a monster.
Okay, so little fear of getting bluffed off my c-bet.
Right. And two, especially when they defend from the big blind, they defend with a really wide, often weak range. They have a lot of air or marginal hands that just can't stand up to continued pressure.
So they just fold too often.
Way too often to a standard c-bet. So by betting almost always, you pick up pots you shouldn't, you get value when you hit, and you basically force them to have a real hand to continue. You simplify your life and print money.
Turning air into profit because they're too passive or too weak. Got it. Okay. Relentless aggression in position. Now, step 3 feels like the polar opposite.
It is. Complete change of pace.
Yeah.
This is about when you raised pre-flop, but you're out of position post-flop.
Like I 3-bet from the small blind, the button calls me, now it's my turn on the flop.
Exactly. And the advice here is counterintuitive. Check your entire range.
Whoa. Check everything. Even my pocket aces, my sets.
Yep. Check it all.
Why on earth would I do that? I have a strong hand, shouldn't I bet?
Because when you're out of position, you give up information first. You lose control. If you bet, you kind of fly blind into their reaction. Checking gives you something valuable.
Which is?
Information. Remember how we said low-stakes players are transparent? Especially with bet sizing.
Ah, the big bet means big hand, small bet means weak hand thing.
That's the one. They telegraph their strength. By checking your whole range, yes. Even your monsters, you invite them to bet. You let them tell you what they likely have.
So if I check my aces and they make a huge bet.
You know they likely have something strong too. Maybe 2-pair, a set, whatever.
Yeah.
You can proceed with caution if they bet tiny, or check back.
Then I probably have the best hand and can go for value on the turn or river.
Exactly. You're using your check to gain intel. Solver simulations actually back this up, even on dry boards like Ace-King 3. The information you gain for later streets is often worth more than the small bet you might get called on the flop.
Okay, so checking range OOP is like setting an information trap. Less about immediate value, more about making better decisions later.
Precisely. You let their predictable patterns guide you. It makes playing out of position way less complex.
All right, aggressive IP, informational check, OOP. That brings us to step 4. This feels like the discipline test. Folding to aggression.
This is probably the single toughest hurdle for players trying to move up. The ego gets in the way. Nobody likes getting pushed around or folding what feels like a good hand.
The hero call instinct.
Exactly. But the source material is clear. Yes, opponents do bluff sometimes, but they massively underbluff when they raise you, especially after you've shown aggression yourself.
So let's walk through it. I raise pre-flop. I bet the flop because I'm in position, step 2. I bet the turn. Now my opponent, who just called flop and turn, suddenly raises me.
Alarm bells should be ringing loudly.
Even if I have, say, top pair, top kicker, or 2-pair on a board that got wetter.
According to this strategy, you have to find the fold button. Almost always.
Really? Fold 2-pair.
Think about why they are raising now. Low-stakes players tend to fast play their big hands. Sets, flushes, straights. They get scared the board will change or you'll check back the river. They want value now. So when that passive player suddenly wakes up with a turn raise after you've bet twice...
They probably have it. They have the nuts or close to it.
Overwhelmingly likely, yes. The guide mentions a specific scenario like that Jack-9 deuce flop that now has a flush draw complete on the turn. If you bet turn and they raise, you fold almost everything. Top pair, 2-pair, gone.
The figure mentioned was folding like 88% of the time to a turn raise. That sounds astronomically high.
It is high, but it reflects the math. Their raising range in that spot is so heavily weighted towards value, like maybe 8 or 9 value combos for every one bluff combo, if that. Calling is just lighting money on fire against that range.
Wow.
The discipline is cutting your losses. Lose the minimum with your strong but not nutted hands before they cost you your whole stack facing a monster.
That requires shutting down that voice that says, but what if he's bluffing this time?
You have to. You're betting on their predictability, betting that they aren't bluffing enough in that specific spot. It's a huge league plug if you can master it.
Okay. Incredible discipline, folding almost 9 out of 10 times there. Which, paradoxically, leads us straight into the final step, step 5.
Yeah. Step 5, bluff capped ranges on the river.
How does step 4 lead into this?
It connects beautifully. Remember how we just established that low-stakes players fast play their big value hands? They raise flop or turn with their sets and flushes?
Right, because they're afraid of missing value.
Exactly. So think about what hands they do show up with on the river, after just calling the flop and calling the turn. This creates what the source calls the river paradox.
Okay, what's the paradox?
Their range is capped. Because they would have raised their monsters earlier, the hands they passively reach the river with usually don't include the nuts.
Capped, meaning they can't have the absolute best possible hand. If the flush gets there on the river, they probably don't have the nut flush if they just called the turn.
Correct. They might have medium strength hands, maybe top pair, second pair, a weak straight, or just total air they floated. Hands they don't want to fold, but also aren't strong enough to bet themselves.
So we know the range is limited on top, and we also know they tend to call too much in general. How do we exploit this capped range?
With aggression, but specifically with size. The recommendation is to bluff with massively oversized bets on the river,
How big is massive?
like 2.5x the pot, maybe even 3x the pot,
Whoa, 3 times the pot is a bluff. Why so huge?
because it puts maximum pressure on those medium strength capped hands. A player holding top pair or a weak straight when facing a 3x pot bet. It's incredibly hard for them to call. They think he must have the nuts to bet that big.
So a normal pot-sized bluff might get hero called, but the huge overbet just screams unbeatable strength.
That's the psychology you're exploiting. You're telling a story that forces folds from everything but the very top of their already capped range. It maximizes your fold equity.
Okay, massive bluffs to exploit capped ranges. But what about when we actually have the nuts on the river? Or a really strong hand we want to get paid with? Do we also bet 3x pot?
No, absolutely not. And this is critical. That would be a mistake.
Way.
Because you want them to call with those medium strength hands when you have value.
All right.
So for your value hands, your good sets, your straights, maybe even top pair, sometimes you should generally bet smaller.
Smaller, like how much?
Maybe half pot, something they can call with their bluff catchers. You size your value bets to get paid by the hands you beat. You size your bluffs to make those same hands fold.
So it's bet big as a bluff, bet small for value, using bet sizing strategically depending on what you want them to do.
Precisely. You're manipulating your response based on your holding. That's high-level exploitation right there.
Okay, wow. So let's recap these 5 steps. Be the pre-flop aggressor.
C-bet relentlessly when heads up and in position.
Check your whole range when out of position to gain info.
Fold, fold, fold to turn aggression.
And then exploit capped river ranges with huge bluffs while value betting smaller.
That's the formula.
What's the big takeaway then for someone listening who wants to start crushing these games?
I think the main point is stop trying to be perfectly balanced like a robot. Start actively exploiting the very human, very predictable patterns of recreational players.
Their loose calls, their transparent betting, the way they fast play value.
Exactly. This 5-step formula just packages that exploitation into simple, actionable rules. It's designed to boost your win rate, like right away, and help you move up stakes faster.
It really is a roadmap built on monetizing common mistakes.
And maybe the final thought to leave people with is just how extreme the discipline and aggression levels are and how they seem to contradict each other.
You mean folding 88% of the time to a turn raise?
Demanding almost monk-like discipline against strength.
While simultaneously advocating for these enormous 3x pot river bluffs, which feels hyper-aggressive.
Right. It's that contrast, absolute certainty in folding when they likely have it, paired with calculated maximum aggression when you perceive their range is weak and capped.
So you have to kill the hero call instinct entirely.
And embrace the math of exploitation, knowing when to hit the brakes hard and knowing when to absolutely step on the gas. That calculated duality, that's the key to unlocking serious profit in these low-stakes games.